y dos, y dos, una, y dos, una, y dos.
Hello and welcome to Cortes NYC Livestream, the podcast. This show broadcasts twice a week out of New York City. We are your hosts, Cortes NYC
and Carla de Puerto Rico.
And on the show, we talk about art, creativity, city life from a Latino perspective. I'm a visual artist.
And I'm a singer.
And this is episode 38, Character.
As always, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and Spotify, and also on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr.
And this Wednesday, August 1st, is the second part of my summer merchandise launch. I have pins, stickers, posters, and original art that's going to be going live for sale. Log on to cortesnyc.bigcartel.com. You can find all my stuff on there. We have package deals as well. So take advantage of the package deals where you can get multiple items for less and support an artist. All right, characters. Let's talk about characters.
Yes.
All right. This art talk, I want to talk about characters. Last art talk, we spoke about wild style. I did like a graph tutorial. We talked about different ways to look at wild style lettering, the construction, the structure of them, and also how to develop graffiti letters. This time, I want to talk about characters because that's another big topic. You know, I think in the graffiti world, I think you've seen it, Carla, like you'll have graffiti artists who only do lettering. Mm-hmm. You have graffiti artists that only do characters.
Yeah.
And then you have graffiti artists who do both. It's a little more rare that you have somebody do both. I don't know why that is. I've always asked myself, because I'm somebody who does both, but I never understood why. What do you think? Why do people think split?
I guess it depends on your background. Like if maybe you were introduced to graffiti as it's just graffiti, the letters and writing my name and leaving my mark behind, you're not gonna think about characters. But if you're more into art and maybe like your background, like it's more about fine art and also more like in a more creative spectrum of knowing comic books and knowing different aspects of art, then maybe you want to incorporate that to your piece.
True, but I still don't get why some people would be so firm into saying, and so rigid into saying, I only do lettering, or the other way around, I only do characters.
Well, maybe they feel more comfortable. Like it's their comfort zone. They don't want to get out of the comfort zone.
because a lot of times the guys that do lettering only, they have ideas. If you start talking to them, they have crazy ideas. Their ideas, like they have a lot of visualization in their mind of like characters and themes and things, but they don't challenge themselves or execute it, or maybe they don't have a way of approaching it. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Or maybe they just identify more with lettering and they just don't want to deal with characters.
Exactly,
they can see the image and they can talk about what they would picture,
but they don't want to create it.
They don't want to create it. Right. I don't know. And the same thing with the other people, the people that just do characters. They don't want to do lettering. And I'm like, wow, a lot of people that do really good rendered characters or really creative characters. And I'm like, why don't you just spend a little time and do some lettering? It'd probably look really cool.
Yeah.
Because it would be funky, like with your character style. This little episode, I want to talk about specifically graffiti characters compared to, let's say, just drawing cartoon characters. There's a specific criteria when it comes to graffiti characters that separate them from just regular cartoons.
Yeah.
Even though people do take regular cartoons and put them on walls, they take photographs and render them beautifully on walls, and that looks beautiful, but it looks like a mural. It doesn't look like graffiti characters. So there's something about the graffiti characters. I think there's a tie-in to what we used to call the b-boy characters, which was a representation of the regular street kid, you know, like the urban kid. Usually the characters would be wearing the clothes that the urban kids are wearing, or something that represents their urban environment, whether it's back in the day would be a boombox, you know, the radio, or a spray can in their hand. Or if they were showing like gangster characters, they would have like guns in their hands and things like that. Baseball hats and hoodies you know, just to kind of identify themselves on the wall as a representation, an icon of themselves on the wall. So there is something about the graffiti characters that are different than regular cartoon characters. Let's start with the notes that I have here. So I think the first thing that I have to acknowledge is that graffiti characters are very, very similar to wild style letters. And people are going to say, what are you talking about? And if you really look at the best graffiti characters, the ones that stand out, every character that I do is not an A+ character. I do characters all the time. They're not always great. They're not all gems.
Yeah.
But the ones that stand out, that people really react to, usually have some similarities to graffiti lettering. And this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say they have similarities in their shapes. The graffiti characters that have more angles and cuts and movement that are similar to lettering, those are the ones that stand out. They have to be kind of abstracted. They can't be so anatomically correct. They have to be a little bit off, a little bit flat, and they have to have, maybe in their eyes, maybe in the way that they position their arms, they have to have like this angular tick-tock that kind of connects with lettering. And so that when you see it, you say, you know, that looks a little bit like a letter or like a graphic abstraction. It doesn't look like a real character, you know, and that is one of the elements that graffiti characters have to have. They have to have graphic shapes that are similar to the graphic shapes that you see in your lettering. So let's say if your lettering style is very bubbly, I would imagine that your graffiti characters would be bubbly. They'll be very rounded. The heads, the fingers, the arms, the body shapes would be very rounded so that it matches your lettering and it ties it all together. If your style is very angular and sharp, then your character would probably have very sharp points and very sharp angles, and that ties them in. So it doesn't look like you just copied something from a comic book. It looks like it marries to your graffiti piece. Those are the successful ones. Like I said, I don't do it all the time, but the ones that are successful are the ones that tie these things together. Another thing to point out, you know, along the lines of the graphic shapes is graffiti characters, they are an abstraction of something that is real, that we can recognize. So for example, an abstraction of a person, you know, you're representing a type of person in an abstract way. The abstraction of an animal, you know, whether it's a dog, a lizard, a parrot, a bird, an eagle, you know, people are doing all kinds of animals and creatures, you know, in a graffiti piece, and it's how you represent that animal in an abstract way. And then also objects. Sometimes people animate like a spray can. They make a spray can, but they give it arms and a face and bodies and put a hat on it and all that. Yeah. Well, how do you do that, abstract it, and still make it look like it is a spray can, identifiable? You know, the best graffiti characters are really simple, really basic and dumbed down, but still represent exactly what you're trying to represent. That's something that graffiti type of characters all have in common that cartoon characters don't necessarily have. When you look at a comic book or you look at an animation, it's a little bit different. Graffiti characters, you can abstract a graffiti character. You could remove the eyes of a graffiti character and replace it with lettering. You can remove the mouth of a graffiti character and replace it with lettering. You know, he can have an arm that extends out into an arrow and becomes part of your piece. And nobody's gonna even look at it weird. Right. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's a graffiti character. Right. It's allowed to do that. It's a graffiti character. That's a weird thing that we've all accepted, that graffiti characters can do these things. If you did that with a cartoon character in a comic book, people would be like, what are you doing? Yeah. They would assume that you don't know how to draw. They would assume that you can't draw, eyes or, you know. But in the graffiti world, you're almost expected to break those rules. You know, graffiti. I would identify graffiti character artists as people that could have been comic book artists or cartoonists, but decided to go the route of graffiti and have all the technical ability of the comic book artists and cartoonists, but they play with it. They abstract it and they have fun with it and they intermix things. But
wouldn't you call graffiti characters a type of cartoon?
Yes and no, because a cartoon to me is usually humorous.
Okay.
It's usually representational of something in our regular world that everybody identifies with.
Okay.
Usually, that gets to the core of what do we define here. A cartoon is usually the simplification of an iconic thing that everybody can recognize. Graffiti characters are meant for the graffiti culture to identify.
Okay.
So to the general public, some of these graffiti characters might not make sense. They might not understand what it is. They might look at it and be like, why does this character have this kind of arm and this kind of hat and this kind of eyes? They think it looks cool, but they don't understand it. And that's part of the graffiti character that makes it different than a cartoon. Usually when you think of cartooning and cartoons, you're taught to represent things that everybody can identify.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's my separation between cartooning and graffiti characters. All right, so along with some of my other notes, when you are inventing a graffiti character, you always have to ask yourself, what's the purpose of this character? What is the point of this character? If you're going to give birth to a fucking character, like, why are you even making this thing come to life? You have to know, is this character supposed to be an icon of intimidation? It's supposed to be like an evil character, or it's supposed to be like a fun character?
Right.
That's very important from the very beginning. You should identify, why are you doing this? And I think you do it unconsciously. As an artist, you're going to approach the wall and your style is going to create these characters. So if your personality and your lettering style is fun and silly and not serious, then your character is going to look that way. If your style is a little more darker and a little more gritty or realistic, then your characters are going to look that way too. So what's the purpose of your character ties into what's the purpose of you even painting on the wall. The attitude, the pose, and the action. That's another thing to take into account. When you're designing your character, it's such a simplified character that you have to know right out the gate, what is the attitude of the character? Is the character just chilling and kind of giving you side eye and just kind of like looking at you, posing in front of the piece, next to the piece? Or is it an action pose? Is the character like jumping out from behind the piece or pointing in a certain way or doing some sort of action thing? And that should be the only thing that you want to show about this character. That should be the focus of the character. When people look at this character, they should immediately understand. When they describe it, they should be able to say, yo, did you check out that wall down the block with the character jumping out from behind? Or they should be able to say it in 2 words. Did you see the wall with the character, with the angry character or the happy character or the, this crazy eraser that he drew? An eraser? And then you got to go see, what is an eraser? I want to see what this eraser looks like. These things are key to these characters. You have to be able to make them so simple and so iconic of an attitude, a pose, an action, an idea that people get it right away, that people can identify, because these characters half the time don't even have names. Nobody knows them. They're original characters. Nobody can identify it and say like,
it's not like saying the Hulk. Oh look, that's the Hulk.
Oh, there's a Hulk. Somebody drew a Hulk. Yeah, it's not that. Yeah, that's part of the abstraction.
Right.
That's what I'm saying is different than a cartoon.
Okay.
A cartoon, you can say, oh, did you see the soccer player doing whatever, like that cartoon of the soccer player or whatever. But when you talk about graffiti characters, it's an abstract thing of almost sometimes of just a mood. And you make a character of this mood.
To represent the mood.
To represent the mood or the attitude, exactly. And then, so the other things to think about when you're making these characters, what's the decorative color or costumes of these characters? I'll give you an example. For graffiti artists out there, I'll give you a challenge. Take the first letter from your piece. Let's say for me, it's the letter C, right? I take the letter C, I turn it into a character. I give it a rope chain and a baseball hat, tucked low, and one arm sticking out, giving the middle finger. That's my graffiti character. It's a lettering, it's an animated letter, and I put a baseball hat on it, a rope chain, and it's giving you the middle finger. Right there, I just said it in a few words, and you already can imagine what it's gonna look like. You know what I mean? On the other hand, if I take, let's say, my letter S, right, and I make it a female character, and I give her, a ponytail. The letter S has a ponytail, and it has like a little cute heart chain or some earrings. Done. You already know that's a graffiti character. That's not a cartoon.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? A cartoon is different. A graffiti character can be the letter S with door knockers and a ponytail, and
It's like the throwy. I remember that throwy that you did back in Puerto Rico 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was like a kind of like a shark, I think. It had like little tooth like that, and it was just the letter. The letter had a little eye and like teeth like a shark.
And that's the minimum. And that's what people have done in the past. And people do it in their throwies, even bombers. People who just take tags and bomb. In their throwies, they'll animate their letters and turn them into characters. And that's the minimum.
Right.
And that's where I'm saying, like...
That even that is a graffiti character.
That's a graffiti character. And when you do more intricate, more detailed graffiti characters, it's just the evolution of that. It's not really representing a person.
Yeah.
It's an animated extension of your lettering and your lettering style into taking the form of a person. But it should still have that animation and that wildness or that motion of your lettering.
I see.
It should still have those angles. The way that you see, if you look at graffiti characters, the way that they make the eyes, the way that they make the hands, it's angled the way that they do their lettering. And you'll find that, the similarities. All right, moving along here. I think another and the last thing that you should think about when you're doing the graffiti characters, and this is really the last thing, this is like, if you want to go that extra mile, is the anatomy and the rendering. That's where your artistic knowledge can come in. If you are that artist that does, realistic characters, realistic people, portraits, things like that, or renders very realistically, that's the last step. After you've already gone through all these little things that you've thought about and developed this character, this funky, abstract graffiti character, the last thing could be to render it a little bit, to kind of give it a little bit of life. And I think people are misled. They think that graffiti characters that are very rendered look real.
Yeah.
Like they say, oh my God, that looks so realistic. Meanwhile, the graffiti artist just went at the end with two sprays, gave it a little highlight and made it look real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But really, the character was an abstraction of something that came out of a bunch of splats and a couple of lines and a couple of things to give it an attitude. And it just looks like it's a rendered thing, but it's not really fully rendered. A lot of graffiti artists do that. And I think it's the imagination that fills in the rest of the person looking at it. The loaded imagination of the person looking at the piece.
Exactly.
All right, I mean, moving along here quick. I mean, this is a lot of information, but I think the last things that I would want to talk about is when you do a piece of production and you do characters, other things that might come into play is when you do multiple characters. And I'm known for doing that, multiple. When I do a piece, if I do one character, it's very rare. I usually fill it up with a lot of characters, background characters, maybe an interplay between characters. I would say my advice to that is when you do multiple characters, make sure that one of the characters stands out as the main character. You want to have one character be either the biggest one or the one in the center or the one that has the most attitude or the one that has the most detail. Always make at least one of them stand out. You don't want to have all this mess of characters. You want to have some focus when you make these graffiti characters, especially because they're so abstract.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want it to be a mess of abstraction. You want to have a focal point. So keep in mind that your main character should be the most focused, the most detailed, the most, central to your piece. Another thing to think about and keep in mind, which I just touched on earlier, is graffiti characters can exist within letters, in the beginning of the letters, at the end of the letters, or on top of the letters. That's it. It's rare that they're under the letters, like below it.
Right.
So keep that in mind when you're designing graffiti characters, that the characters should be drawing your attention, like either to the right of going into the lettering, because you put him on the left, now he's pointing towards the right, or at the end of the lettering, pointing back at your letters. But your characters should be your bookmarks. They should be turning your focus back into your lettering. And if the character's in the middle, make sure that the character plays well in the center of your piece. Don't let the character kind of just sit there like somebody slapped the character onto your piece. It should be living inside of your piece. And that kind of helps in the design of the character. It helps the viewer to understand why that character exists.
Exactly.
If it's placed correctly in relation to your lettering.
Exactly.
And then I think the last thing that I would say is for the people out there that are a little shy of doing characters, don't be embarrassed if the characters don't look real to you. It's not really about reality. I think that's this whole conversation. Graffiti characters are not about reality or realistic people. Graffiti characters are an attitude. It's about a mood. Anything could be a graffiti character. A lightning bolt can be a graffiti character. You know, a pair of headphones could be a graffiti character. A microphone. People used to do microphones all the time when it was a big with rap and graffiti and it was tied together.
Yeah.
Nobody does it anymore.
Yeah.
But it used to be a big thing. Boom boxes, microphones, you know, those things. A spray can is like the iconic graffiti character.
It's the definition of personification, basically. Graffiti characters, the definition of personification.
Thank you so much for summing it up, Carla. You found the perfect word. Yeah, but it should be fun also. It should be fun to you. If you're struggling to do a character, you're doing it wrong. It should be fun. All right, guys, so go, draw, invent, let your imagination run wild. Tag me if you do some fun things. Cortesnyc Livestream on Instagram.
Pero si me estás haciendo todo igual, no tiene ningún color el paso que hace. Separa menos tiempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, culture talk.
Yes. Sorry. Culture talk. So, and on this culture talk, we're gonna be talking about friendship, and it's gonna be more about thinking about the friends that we have and maybe appreciate them a little bit. We're gonna go through some stages for you guys to evaluate your friendships, the friendships you already have. And these stages I learned them in school because I'm a communications major, and interpersonal communication is part of the communication studies spectrum. And as part of the curriculum, we were learning about how do we go through certain stages when a friendship evolves. And I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit about these stages, and let's just rethink our friendships and see how they develop. Sometimes this happens so naturally, so organically, that we don't think that we're following certain steps. But we do.
You know, when you brought up this topic, and I thought it kind of went well with graffiti characters, in that if you look at your friendships and you look at the group of friends that you have, don't we all have like some real characters in our friends circles? Like our circle of friends, I know we all have a cast of characters. You have the guy who's like serious, the guy who's funny, the guy who, you know, is always up to no good, or the guy who, you know, is always too good, or the guy who's always late, the guy who's always on time. You have all these personalities and these characters. And sometimes, a lot of times, when I'm drawing characters, I pull from those memories of those human experiences and interactions of friendships that I have.
Yeah, in my case, I have a group of friends from back in Puerto Rico, back when we were in middle school, and we're still friends, and we're seven females. We're all different. You have the one that is a little bit more serious, the ones that are a little bit more free and carefree, but in a way we all connected, and that's why we are all friends. So going into the stages, this is for you guys to evaluate the friendships that you already have. So the first one is called like discovering roles. So when we talk about discovering roles, that's that first interaction that you have with a person that you just met. And sometimes when we first met our friends, in my case it was in school, and I was just getting to know them because for me they seem different, and they seem like maybe we had things in common, but I didn't really know. So at that time I was just talking to them, saying hello, how are you, where you came from, because some of them moved to my school and they were new students at my school. So that's discovering roles. Then we go into starting friendly relations. That's the name of the stage. And in this stage, what we do usually when we are meeting new friends, and I remember when I was back in school, you start to check what are their interests. So I used to talk with my friends and see like, do you like music? And then if I notice that they will like music, I'll be like, oh, okay, that's something that we have in common. Maybe we can continue getting to know each other. And that's how I feel I connected with all my friends, because My friends are all into music, going out, something creative, something artistic in a way. They're very outspoken and fun. So that's something that connected me to them.
Yeah.
And that's something that happens with conversations.
I think at my age, over the years, I've made so many friends, and some friends that I've lost touch with. And I think at this stage in my life, friends that I have, usually we have friendships in common because we are into the same interest, which is something creative, some sort of creative venture, whether it's visual art or audio art or something like that, or some sort of creative venture. Like, if you're not into something creative, it's very hard for me right now to maintain a friendship with you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I'm so involved in what I do, and I'm seeking other people for motivation or inspiration, or even to sometimes to share work. But most of the time, even if we don't work together, we're still, interested and can relate to that kind of schedule and that kind of work ethic. And I think that is something that informs my friendships now, and that's why my circle is small.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, moving to New York and trying to make friends in New York, it has been a little bit tough, because for me now I look into like, what are you from and your culture, to see if we can connect, because sometimes we meet so many different people and it's difficult to find a common ground.
Yeah.
So I start to talk, and sometimes not friendship, but the stage of relationships can just stay in friendly relations, because I really don't know what else to talk about. So yeah. Then continuing to the next stage is called moving towards friendship. And this is the time when I was back in school, I used to have Messenger. I don't know if you guys remember what Messenger was.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So Messenger was kind of like a WhatsApp,
okay.
But instead of using it on the phone, you're using the computer.
Gotcha.
And I used to have Messenger, so when I was trying to connect more with my new friends, which are now my
old
best friends
oh.
and old friends.
Don't tell them I said they're old friends.
we used to talk on the Messenger, and that was our hangout. We were like, oh, give me your Messenger, and we will talk and send like little emojis and stuff like that through the Messenger.
And now it's your Instagram.
But now it's your Instagram, yeah.
Right.
Now it's sharing your Instagrams, sharing your Facebook, giving your phone number.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you get to a certain stage where you already feel that friend is somebody that you can trust, maybe, then you start sharing a little bit more with them. And that's moving towards friendship. And then we go to nascent friendship.
To what?
Nascent friendship.
What's that? Nascent.
Nascent. It's basically like starting a friendship. It's a friendship that is
spell nascent?
Nascent.
Nascent. Okay.
Nascent. And it's basically when the relationship is born. Basically, that's like the friendship is born.
Okay.
Because first you were moving towards friendship, and then the relationship finally was born because you share a little bit more.
So that, for guys, that's probably like when you have that first beer and go, you know what? We could have another beer.
Exactly. That's exactly what
That's
it
the
is.
second beer.
That's the second beer.
The second beer is, okay, now we're friends.
Exactly.
All right,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, so exactly. That's how you define this nascent friendship, is when you start having lunch or dinner, share drinks, but you don't get into personal stuff because it's still a little bit too early for you to share personal struggles or...
Yeah, I mean, I think that happens often when you meet new people. People who are socially awkward or don't know how to communicate with new people in social environments sometimes will say the wrong thing up front. By the second beer, they're talking about their divorce, or they're talking about something from their past or their personal life, and you're like, that's not the topic that we're here for. We're here to keep it light, keep it entertaining. If we get to know each other, maybe down the road, maybe.
Exactly.
But not really.
Yeah, and that happens a lot, I think, with friends that you make at work.
Yeah.
Because
it's
you
tough.
go out and you want to have a beer and have fun, but at the same time, you don't want to make it too personal because you know that you have to see that person again and again and again.
Yeah, and also, I mean, some of the, this might be another topic for another show, but what is acceptable conversation and what is too personal.
Exactly.
Sometimes, especially now that we all socialize online, I think it's very easy to identify what's too much information.
Yeah.
And I think we all have certain filters that allow us to say, you know what, we know how to.
Exactly.
We have all agreed that this much information is good, and all the rest is like direct messages, DMs, and I'm not here for the DMs. I'm here to like just be a friend, just be cool. Yeah, like let's just be cool. Anything you say to me should be something that I can repeat to anybody else. I shouldn't be afraid to repeat this to somebody else.
Exactly.
I totally understand that.
Yeah. So then we go into stabilize friendship. Stabilize. Then we go into stabilize friendship.
Okay.
And this is basically when your friendship is already stable, like the word said. And it's not only stable, but you trust that person. It's something more special. You share more than just drinks, but you plan for future events. So you keep that person in mind for, let's say, oh, I'm thinking I'm going to a concert next week. I'm going to tell her just in case she wants to come. Or, oh, I'm going through a rough time, so I'm going to talk to her. Maybe she can help me with some advice. It's when you already have that trust and you're confident that that person will be there for you.
I think for guys, it would be more like we had a successful night. Nobody got arrested. We had a good time. There was no fights. And let's do it again. Fine. We're stable.
Exactly.
We're friends. I can trust you. We're friends. Okay, we're cool. Like, mission accomplished and we're all good. Yeah? Okay, everybody still has their limbs. Yeah, I mean, for guys, it's a very simple... I guess for guys, it's a little less spoken and a little more just like action-based.
Exactly.
And it's just like... project accomplishments.
Exactly.
If you accomplish the project with somebody, a project could be going out for the night, or a project can be doing a wall together, or doing an actual project together. But if you've accomplished something together and it was successful, then you can move on to be like, I could trust that guy.
Exactly.
That's my boy.
Yeah.
Like, that's my homie.
Because you have them,
He's got my back. I see that he's trustworthy.
And in my case, I think I've seen this when you're going to a rough time and you kind of you don't know if you can trust the person yet, but you're trusting yourself that you can trust that person. And then you tell them about the situation, and that's how you basically also, that's how also trust evolve, because by you telling that person, you're trusting them that they will take care, or at least be careful with the information that you're giving them, and then also get some advice. And then
I think it sounds like girls play a little game of like, let me give you something valuable. Can I trust you with this valuable thing?
I mean, you go.
Is
I
that
don't know.
Is that what you guys do? You share secrets and then you say, I'm gonna give you a testing time. Did you spill the beans or not? No? Okay, then I trust you.
I mean, I think there's something there. Because it's just like sometimes us as girls, I don't know, we go through certain things and we don't know who to trust, and we try to trust this person, and if it worked out, then you can continue to trust that person, and that person is gonna be there when you are going through a rough time. That's basically what it is. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, and then the last one is waning friendship.
Waning friendship.
Waning friendship.
What is that?
Is when the friendship disappears. So basically, you had a friend, you were very connected with them, but maybe because of distance or changing environment, changing interest, changing lifestyle, you guys just don't communicate anymore.
Yeah.
And
I've had a lot of that in my life. I think the older you get, the more you see this entire cycle.
Exactly.
I think a sign of maturity is accepting these stages and understanding these stages. I think that's a good sign of maturity. And I think as we get older, we look for people that understand this. That you and I have just met. We can be cool right now. We can get to know each other. But we're not best friends, and we're probably not going to be best friends. And eventually, unless if you and I are attached at the hip and we're dying in the same hospital, we're not gonna see each other to the end.
Yeah.
As you get older, you start to become more comfortable with the cycle and understanding that friendships don't always last forever. Friendships, for the majority of friendships, kind of fade. They come in and they go out.
Yeah.
It's rare that people that you know for years and years and years stay friends with you. If they have, then not only is it a good relationship, but it's an evolving relationship.
Right, exactly.
It's a relationship that has evolved, that has gone through the stages, faded away, and then returned.
That's exactly what I was going to say now, that something to understand about these stages and what I learned in school. This is all textbook information.
Carla, you're taking Dr. Greedy's job now. You're Dr. Carla.
Come on. No, but what I was going to say is, let's say that you have a friendship that is in the waning stage. Waning stage.
Yeah.
If you guys reconnect again, you're not going to start the whole process all over again. You're gonna take it on that stage where you left over. Let's say if you left over in moving towards friendly relations. So then you'll start to connect that person again, and maybe it can evolve to other stages and get into a civilized friendship. So it's not like if a friendship disappeared, that's it, and then if you reconnect with that person, you need to start all over again. No, because you already know that person, you already kind of understand what they're about, so you don't have to go over again to get to know them again.
Well, I would maybe disagree a little bit. I think in some cases, not all cases, but some cases, some people do have to start again, because you might have the reason that you guys kind of faded out as friends might have been such a drastic change,
right,
that now you got to start all over again. I've had that situation in my life where I've had friends that I knew growing up that we reconnected 10 years later and things were a little different, and we kind of had to start all over again. And I felt like, not that I didn't have those memories of our friendship and that trust, but I felt like I had to reestablish trust. I had to re-understand, who is this guy? What is he about? Like, what's going on here? Like,
I can understand that. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm saying that it's textbook information, because in real life, things happen differently. And sometimes we just separate ourselves from certain people because of certain interactions that when you're trying to reconnect with that person, it's not easy, and you need to reprogram everything.
I'm so tempted to extend this program, give us another hour on this topic, and just talk about all the dirty laundry of our friendships in the past. But that's not going to be fun. No, but the truth is, though, I do also have scenarios where I've had friends that we can pick up right where we left off, and that's true also. I've had friendships that we've kind of faded away, but we could just pick up right where we left off, and it's just like we never lost a day, even though we haven't seen each other in 6 years, 7 years.
Exactly.
I think also, another point here could be family friendships. Sometimes friends can be like family, sometimes family can be like friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes even in family, you go through these stages where you have to kind of reconnect, retrust,
that's
things fade.
That's what I was thinking while I was talking about this. In family, that happens a lot, and more when you move from your country or from your city. That happens a lot.
Yeah. And then I would say, just to add to the end of this, and this is, again, could have been a whole other podcast, but also male to male, obviously, that's what we're talking about, female to female, but then male to female, female to male friendships also go through these stages, also have their levels of trust. I have friends that are female friends that I've known for years that I feel very comfortable with, that people fade and you lose contact, and there's a reason why you guys are friends, and there's something to be seen there and to be understood about that interests and what you evolve into as you get older, especially as you get older, and you have families and you have, your interests can fade, and your friendships can be either adjusted so that you continue to be friends, or fade away, right?
Exactly, yeah.
You wanted me to teach you, right? This is street reality.
Hablando español, Carla.
Yes, hablando español. Okay, so the first word is nascent.
I don't even know what that is. That's a trick one.
Yeah,
Nascent?
it is a trick one because I didn't even know either.
Nascent.
Nascent.
Do you have the?
Yes, I now have it.
What is it?
Naciente.
I don't know what it is in English. I don't know what it is in Spanish.
Naciente is... It's basically like being born, like
Como nacer.
como nacer. So nascent is like está naciendo. Is being born.
I think I'm showing my ignorance right now, but I've never heard or used the word nascent in English.
Yeah.
But okay, so nascent
Textbooks. Okay, nascent. Okay.
is what is it in Spanish?
Naciente.
Naciente. Okay.
Next one, waning.
Waning is a tricky one. Waning, I've heard it used. I've barely ever used that word.
Mm-hmm.
But waning, the definition of waning, I think, is like it's fading. It's waning is like it's wobbling. I just have this picture in my head of something wobbling out until it's no longer stable. It just kind of wanes away. So what's waning in Spanish? Because I would have no idea.
Menguante.
Oh my God. The fuck are these college words? Waning is what?
Menguante.
Menguante. Are you
Yes.
sure about that?
Yes.
And
I looked it up.
have you ever used the word menguante?
Yes, but not in this concept.
How have you used menguante?
I mean, it's kind of the same concept. No, it's not. Well, menguante is usually used for when they're gonna describe the moon. When the moon can be a full moon, but then it has different stages.
Yeah.
One of the stages in Spanish is called cuarto menguante, which I now thinking about the definition of waning and menguante, then it can mean like that is menguando, meaning that is that you have less of it, like
Right.
is less of the full amount.
Well, I mean, the word waning means like to lose strength, to lose like intensity. So like if your message, for example, or your voice is waning, then that means that it's like losing its intensity. It's losing its
Está menguando.
power.
So then
Yeah.
it makes sense for the word menguante because then está menguando. So that means that like it's fading. Yeah.
I have never used that word, but okay.
Okay, let's
go.
continue. So next one, friendship. How do you say friendship?
Oh, friendship. Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Friendship, amistad.
Yes,
Amistad. And if you guys are familiar with the old movie by Steven Spielberg, Amistad, about a boat called Amistad, a ship.
You should watch it. It's a good
Yeah,
one.
it's a good movie, Amistad.
Yeah. Okay, next one, stages.
Stages. Wow, I've never used stages. Esas son las etapas?
Yeah.
Etapas, really?
Yeah, etapas.
Etapas are stages.
Yeah.
Etapas, stages. And tapas are delicious too.
Yeah. Next one, characters.
Characters. Okay, this is a good thing now to discuss. Characters. I don't know how to say that in Spanish, but I do know how to say caricatures. How do you say characters?
Personajes.
There you go. Yeah, you nailed it. All right. Characters can be personajes.
Yeah.
Like a character is a personality. So when I say
Exactly.
when I say graffiti characters, I'm really saying graffiti personalities, and that's why it's not a cartoon. A graffiti character is a personality in the world of graffiti.
Exactly.
Caricature is different, and that's caricatura.
I was going to go to that because
Yeah.
cartoon is also caricatura.
Exactly. A cartoon or a caricature is a representation, a visual representation of somebody. And it's implied that looks like somebody. A character is a personality. And when we talk about graffiti characters, we're talking about the personification of an idea, of a mood or personality. All right, so character is, in español?
Characters, personajes.
Personajes, all right.
And then let's go into cartoon.
cartoon.
Which is?
Cartoon is caricatura.
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 Yes.
Cartoon.
Next one, urban.
Urban. Urbano?
Yes.
Urban is urbano. All right.
Urbano. Next one, realistic.
Realistic. Realístico.
Realista.
Realista. Realistic.
Realista.
Realista. Okay, got it.
Next one, purpose.
Purpose. Purpose. Oh, that should not be the same. Purpose. Because it wouldn't be purpose. Purpose.
Pulpo.
Pulpo. Yeah. Purpose is. Oh shit. I don't know. Purpose.
Propósito.
Damn. Yeah.
You knew it?
Well, I've used it and I've heard it.
Yeah.
But propósito.
Propósito.
You know where I know it from?
Where?
From my childhood saying I didn't do it on purpose. No lo hice
Exacto, no lo hice a propósito.
No lo hice a propósito.
A propósito.
I didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay, next one, simple.
Simple. Simple.
Yes.
All right. Feel so Spanish now. Thank you, Carla. Everybody else, go learn your Spanish. All right, another episode in the bag.
Yes, that's right.
Next episode is episode 39, branding fashion. I'm going to talk in Art Life about branding your name, how to make your name stand for something. Your signature is what I mean. Not a company, but your signature. How to make your signature as an artist stand for something.
And on Culture Talk, we're gonna be talking about Latino fashion icons. Some names that maybe you recognize, but you don't know they're Latinos, or other new designers that you should know about.
That should be interesting because I really don't know too many Latino fashion designers, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, and then at the end,
Hablando español.
oh yeah, I hope I learned something next week as well. Peace, guys.